Welcome aboard the cosmic journey that is the Spirituality with Ashley podcast, where we dive deep into the mystical realms of metaphysics and spirituality. I'm your host, Ashley, a certified Akashic Records reader and energy healer and trained psychic medium. You're in the right place if you're ready to expand your consciousness and unlock the wisdom and insights that light up our path of self-discovery and growth. If you enjoy this show, please give it a 5-star rating and share it with friends and family. Come along with me on this journey of exploration where the universe speaks and we listen with open hearts. Let's dive in. All right, guys, I'm so excited about today's episode. Oh my gosh, water. Should have filled in my glass and I didn't. Today, we're talking about choosing empowerment over victimhood and breaking free from past life patterns. I've been doing so many Akashic Soul Blueprint readings lately, and part of my favorite part of that reading is doing the past life stories part and getting into recurring patterns and themes and blocks and coaching people to help break them free from these things. Because even though we do the clearing in the Akashic Records, you still have to take empowered conscious action in your life so that you don't revert back to these things. So you may be wondering why we're even talking about past lives and their patterns, or maybe you're not. But just because I always like for us to all be on the same page, I want to clarify that these past experiences, whether we consciously remember them or not, can impact our current life. And the effects can manifest as recurring negative patterns, unexplained fears, or persistent challenges in our relationships and personal growth. So being able to learn about and understand our past life influences can be really, really significant in that it allows us to get to the root causes of some of our current struggles. It can just be so, so helpful. I've personally found it really helpful, and I've noticed that a lot of my clients are finding it really helpful too. And it just explains so much when you're able to dig into your past lives and then notice these patterns that are very similar, or these choices. It's just so satisfyingly wild. So let's say that you've been trying to overcome a particular fear or break a cycle that's just not been feeling great for you. But no matter what you do, it keeps coming back up. When you're able to explore the possibility that these issues might come from past life experiences, you can start to address them in a more effective and holistic way. So if you're noticing patterns or fears in your life that you're not having a hard time breaking, then that's awesome. And I'm specifically referring to the things that you can't seem to shake and don't understand why. And maybe you keep choosing relationships where you're sacrificing yourself, or maybe you keep self-sabotaging because you're scared of being abandoned. It could be a multitude of things. So today, we're going to get into how you can identify these negative patterns and then how you could choose to move from a mindset of victimhood, why is this happening? What's wrong with me? To a mindset of empowerment. How can I grow from this? What can I learn and change to move forward? You know, I'm all about reclaiming your power and recognizing that while we may not control our pasts, we absolutely have the power to shape our present and our future lives or life. Same. So whether you're new to the concept of past lives or you've been exploring this area for a while, I encourage you to be open-minded about this episode. Never hurts to take in new information. So this is going to be a really good episode. Let's get into it. As always, I like to start out with some definitions. So what are past life patterns and how can they impact present life situations? Past life patterns are behaviors, emotional responses, and recurring situations in our current lives that are influenced by experiences from past lives. And you could think of them like echoes from the past resonating through time and space, subtly shaping our present. And these patterns can show up in different ways. For example, you may be drawn to certain types of relationships, even when they continue to not benefit you very much. Or you may go through similar challenges or obstacles, no matter where you go or what you do, the same ones just keep popping up. And these can be indicators of past life experiences that are still affecting you and nudging you to let you know that they need to be addressed. Because things will keep coming up until you look at them and heal them. Okay, so how do we actually recognize whether or not something is a past life pattern? I want to go over some common signs that you can look for. We love signs here. I consider myself Detective Ashley, so let's go. All right, so some common signs that you can look for are if it's a repetitive negative pattern that just keeps showing up in your life. This is a huge indicator. And it looks like situations or behaviors that you seem to repeat over and over and over again, despite your best efforts to change. For example, you might notice that you self-sabotage whenever you get close to achieving a goal, or maybe you keep attracting the same kind of toxic relationships. Another big sign is unexplained fears or phobias. Have you ever felt like an intense fear of something without any legitimate or clear reason as to why? Could be a fear of water, a fear of heights, or even certain animals or spiders in my case. Ugh. Although I did go to a pet shop today and like I looked right at a tarantula and I was okay. So I feel like maybe I'm dealing with some stuff. Anyway, so this could be because if you do have fears of water or heights or animals or just unexplained fears or phobias, it could be because you've had traumatic experiences in past lives and then they've carried over into your current life as residual memory. I have explored more than a few of my past lives and noticed that some of the experiences do abso-friggin-lutely correlate with my current life fears and phobias. And one of them is a fear of deep water. Oh my gosh, it irks me so much to be in very deep water and not be able to like see the bottom or for the bottom to be really far away to the point that I feel like I'm like this tiny speck in this giant body of water. Blech. Even talking about it, I'm like, ugh, heebie-jeebies. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And as it turns out, I did have a past life as a guy who drowned in the ocean. I was like accompanying a friend on some kind of research expedition where they were studying marine wildlife. I think they're studying whales actually in the ocean. And I don't remember how it happened, but I drowned. It's wild, man. And that particular past life also explained why I don't want to have children and my feelings associated with that choice. Oh, it's so wild. But anyway, though, yeah. So that was very illuminating for me as far as like why, because I don't think I have any other reason. I can't think of anything in my life for why I would have a fear of deep water or being like super out in the ocean very deep. Yeah, no idea. Because I'm not scared of water. I love the ocean. Keep me on the shore though. That's my happy spot. I mean, I can go out and float as long as I can touch. I can probably deal with a few feet below me, like not being able to touch, but then I get worried about the current. And now I'm digressing from my point here. So another indicator that something may be from a past life is when you have a really strong sense of deja vu or feeling that something is super familiar about a person, a place, a situation, a thing. And the deja vu happens when it's something that you've actually never encountered before. So this can be a more subtle hint that your soul recognizes something from a past life. And so I encourage you to pay attention to that stuff. And this usually happens to me. It's happened to me with places before, but it more often happens to me with people where I'm like, oh my God, I just feel like I've known you. Like I'm not somebody who's immediately comfortable around people. I tend to be a bit more wary. I'm very introverted. I grew up extremely shy. And so when I meet somebody and I'm immediately like, oh my God, I love you. And it's more than that. It's just this like level of comfort where I'm like, oh, I feel at home with you. Like that is an indicator that there's some kind of soul connection there. Okay, so being able to understand and make sense of these signs and patterns is the first step toward healing and growth. And once you're able to acknowledge the potential origins of these things, you can start to actually unravel and address them with more compassion and insight instead of ignoring them or shoving them down and suppressing what doesn't make sense. And once you're aware, you give yourself the power to break free from these unconscious cycles that can hold you back. And you're able to enable yourself to choose empowerment and conscious living where you are taking responsibility for your choices and you are shaping your own life. You're not a victim of your life. You are not someone who things are happening to. You're someone who things are happening for when you have an empowered mindset. So let's talk about how you can identify these patterns in your life and the steps that you can take to transform them. And shameless plug right now, if you get an Akashic Soul Blueprint reading, we'll go over your past lives and we'll talk about some of these patterns. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just throwing it out there. No pressure. All right. And I'm actually serious. I'm just throwing it out there. There never is any pressure when you feel called. If you ever feel called to get that reading, then do it. But if it's not for you, it's not for you. And don't ever let anybody pressure you into a reading or like try to sell you on that stuff. It is a very energetic resonance kind of a deal. So I talk about it a lot because I'm excited about it and I love them, but I am in no way being like, you need to get this reading. That's not where we're at. You do what you need to do, boo. Okay. So since the goal of this episode is to distinguish between victimhood and empowerment, well, one of the goals of the episodes, we're also talking about past lives, but since one of the goals is victimhood versus empowerment, I want to talk about the very crucial difference between these two mindsets, because making this distinction is a fundamental part of being able to break free from negative patterns and choose to remember that you are a powerful force with infinite potential. And I'm just going to say that again. You are a powerful force with infinite potential. And honestly, you can use that as an affirmation. Look in the mirror and tell yourself, like, I'm a powerful force with infinite potential, because you are. It's very empowering. Okay, so I need more water. I'm already like parched. Oh my gosh, I was just thinking about commercials in Japan. This is why I have scripts, because I just get off topic. Anyway, in Japan, like a lot of the commercials are like very dramatic. Like somebody cracks open a soda and then like drinks it and they're like, that was delicious. It just made me think of that. Anyway, I love Japan. I don't know, they commercials used to be like that. I grew up there, so this wasn't like, it was a while ago. Anywho, okay. So where was I in my notes? This is what happens when you get off topic. Okay. So a victim mindset is characterized by a sense of powerlessness or helplessness. When you're in a victim mindset, it'll feel like life is happening to you, not for you. And you'll feel like you have little to no control over your circumstances. You might even blame other people for your situation or misfortunes. And you may feel stuck in your situation and potentially believe that you're just perpetually at the mercy of the universe or external forces. Anytime you feel like you're at the mercy of things outside of yourself, victim mindset. So staying in this type of mindset can actually lead to a cycle of negativity where you feel trapped and unable to move forward. And man, oh man, do I spiral into a victim mindset when I'm exhausted and stressed out. Despite the amount of personal development and growth I've done over the past few years, like, take away some sleep and let me be stressed out. And if you add hunger in there, So once I spiral into a victim mindset, I like get into this, oh my God, I need to control everything mode. And then I'm like, I get even more stressed out because I'm like, I need to try to figure everything out because I feel like I don't have control. And then I need to regain control over everything, which stresses me out even more. And this actually happened to me this morning, which kind of inspired this episode. I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk about this because this is not the episode I was planning to talk about today. Anyway, I woke up at 6 a.m. to take out Rocket, the puppy, and then Fish, the cat, was provoking her while I was trying to nap on the sofa. Like, just let me get another hour of sleep before I have to get up and do adult things in the world. Anyway, and then I noticed some things around my home that I felt like my partner should have taken care of, which was very triggering for me. And then things just started like compounding until I was so overwhelmed and frazzled. And mind you, this whole time, victim mindset. The cat and the dog won't let me sleep. And oh my gosh, if he would have just done this, and my life, and why is my life so hard? And just, I was very tired. It was 6 a.m. Cut me some slack. Anyway, it's not an excuse. I'm just kidding about cutting me slack. I could have been better about it. I could have chosen an empowered mindset, but I didn't. And that's why this is such a good example. Thank you, universe. Thank you for this opportunity to have a real life example that just happened for me to share on this episode so we can really talk about this stuff happening in real life. So it actually felt like I was spiraling down this black hole of abyss and I couldn't even remember what happiness was. I am nothing if not dramatic. Anyway, So I went outside, I let myself listen to the cicadas and nature sounds. Like I just allowed myself to feel the stress and feel sad and feel overwhelmed. And then I noticed that I was trying to figure everything out. And it took me a few minutes. I think I sat out there for probably about 20 minutes. And the first 15 of it, I was just like, ah, I even had my head in my hands. I had a very like tense body position. And I suddenly had this thought pop into my head. And I think it was when I saw a lizard jumping around on the leaves of the tree in front of me. And it distracted me enough out of my like spiral to where I was like, man, you are the same color as those leaves. I never would have noticed you if you hadn't moved. I wonder how many times there's been a lizard on the leaves in front of this tree that's in front of my balcony. And in allowing myself to be distracted by that, it kind of pulled me out of my like victim dwelling in my misery mindset that I was in. And so I allowed myself to feel the things. I got distracted and I suddenly had this thought pop into my head, and it was, allow the universe to take care of it. You don't have to figure everything out. Just allow yourself to be shown the way. So I just kept repeating to myself after that. I was like, I trust the universe to guide me and have my back. I don't have to figure it all out. Because the more that I felt like I had to figure it out, the more stressed out I got. And then after about 10 minutes of that and just breathing, repeating that affirmation that I was just going to let the universe guide me and have my back, that I was surrendering, I noticed that I started thinking about things that I'm actually excited about, that I'm like super motivated for, and just things that make me really happy. And my mood shifted like boop immediately. And then suddenly I wasn't feeling like the world was against me. I was in a good mood. Like it was so fast, just as dramatically as I can fall into a bad mood, I could get into a really good one. Mercurial, I think is the word that I'm looking for. And then I was feeling really upbeat. But there was a time where I would have just dwelled in that negative place, and I would have journaled about it, and I would have talked to all my friends about it, and I would have just perpetuated the victimhood place where I felt like everything was crap and falling apart and I was alone and blah, blah, blah. But I've done the things to deal with some of these patterns that were keeping me in that place, because I did not like being in that place. I mean, I really identified with it for a while and I kept wanting to go back to it. But now that I know what it's like to shift out of that place and choose to shift out of that place, I can't make the excuses anymore. Now I'm like, I have no reason to be sitting in this misery. I'm not doing it. I'm going to go watch a cute cat video or a cute little puppy video, and I'm going to keep it moving. So now it's a lot easier for me to recognize when I'm feeling like a victim, and I'm able to allow myself to shift my mindset into feeling more empowered and free, which leads me into this next point, which is that of an empowered mindset. So an empowered mindset is all about taking responsibility for your life and your choices. Excuse me. When you have an empowered mindset, you're able to recognize your ability to influence your reality and take proactive steps to create positive change. So when you're empowered, you're able to see challenges as opportunities for growth and learning, instead of insurmountable obstacles that are there to torture you and make you miserable and all the things happening to you. So an empowered mindset fosters resilience and self-confidence. And when you're empowered, you'll know that you're able to navigate life's ups and downs, and you'll have a proactive, optimistic attitude about it. And you'll feel in control of your own actions, your own decisions. You'll feel in control of your life circumstances because you know that you are able to choose. And when you choose an empowered mindset over a victim mindset, you'll believe that you have the power to influence outcomes, which you do, to make choices and to take action to shape your life according to what you want and what your goals are. You'll understand that you're responsible for your actions and absolutely capable of creating change in your own life instead of feeling helpless or like a victim of your circumstances. Oof, feel revved up. That felt like a friggin' pep talk, and I'm so here for it. Okay. Hey there. I'm Ashley, channeler of optimism at your service. Tips hat. Ma'am. I just imagined like myself as a cowboy tipping my hat. Ma'am. No idea where that came from. I'm so random. Okay, we're carrying on. Why? I think Tombstone keeps popping into my head. Yeah, such a good movie. Okay, so I actually want to mention another thing about having a victim mindset. It is really important to know what you want out of life. out of your relationships, out of your career or your job. Because when you don't know what you want, it's really easy to just float along and kind of accept whatever happens, which is another key trait that can be part of a victim mindset. So without a clear vision or without clear goals, you end up reacting to life rather than proactively shaping it. So this lack of direction can actually result in you feeling powerless and stuck in your circumstances that you don't want, which can reinforce the belief that you don't have any control over your life. On the other hand, when you do know what you want, it gives you a sense of purpose and direction, and it empowers you to make decisions that align with your desires. And it and it helps you to make, excuse me, and it helps you to make choices that move you toward a more fulfilling life. And trust me, I have been there. I'm almost 40 and I had no idea about any of this, which is likely why I ended up in a marriage that perpetuated my victim mindset. I felt stuck. I didn't understand why. And then I had this relationship where I constantly felt pushed, like pushed against, like I had to fight for myself. Like I was always struggling and I was so lost and confused. And it wasn't until after I got divorced and very recently, honestly, I realized that I don't, I didn't really know what I wanted out of a relationship. I was just floating through life, getting into relationships and looking for people and like, oh, that guy's attractive. Oh, this feels good. This is fun. Like this feels supportive. So I finally gathered the courage to sit down and make a list of everything that I want in a partner. And I noticed when I decided to do this list, I was avoiding it. And I noticed that I was actually terrified of making the list because I think a part of me was worried that I was being unrealistic. Or what if I made the list and then realized that it was hopeless and that I'd never find what I was looking for? But you know what? Making this list about what I wanted in a partner actually made me feel better. It was such an empowering thing to do. So if you don't know what you're looking for in a partner, in a job role, out of life, I encourage you to take some time to reflect on that. Make a list or make a vision board or journal about it. Either way, it's a very cathartic process. Highly recommend, 10 out of 10. Okay, so back to the topic of past lives. So how do past life experiences play into the mindset of victimhood and empowerment? Let's pull it all together. If you experienced trauma or victimization in a past life, then you may carry those feelings of powerlessness into your current life. And then those unresolved emotions can actually predispose you to adopt a victim mindset and perpetuate a cycle of negativity and helplessness. For example, someone who is oppressed or mistreated in a past life might struggle with feelings of worthlessness or chronic fear in this life. And I can tell you, as somebody who was definitely mistreated and also oppressed in past lives on Earth and on other planets, I definitely still struggle with feelings of worthlessness and chronic fear and anxiety. And it's something that I'm constantly peeling the layers back, doing energy healing, finding more past lives. Like some of these patterns are so deep-seated and repetitive, and it takes time, it takes patience, it takes compassion, it takes love. But we've got this, guys. Because I'm noticing, even though I have all the layers, like every time you even just pull one layer back, oh my gosh, it helps so much. The things that have been coming out of my mouth lately in my relationships specifically, because I do a lot of work around like healthy relationships and really trying to be self-aware where that's concerned. Like I'm finding myself able to like really notice when an emotional reaction is about to happen, to the point where like I feel like I rarely have emotional reactions in that context because I'm so used to like stopping, reflecting, carefully choosing my words, choosing to do, the things, try not to get too like deep into that because it is very personal. But anyway, it is noticeable once you start breaking these patterns, and I'm telling you from personal experience. So anyway, of course, I have another personal example of when I was mistreated. So I have a personal example of being mistreated or oppressed in a past life and then struggling with feelings of worthlessness or chronic fear in this life. And it's funny because I just brought up my marriage from years ago, not my current partner. My current boyfriend slash partner is not like my husband, which is a good thing. Otherwise, we would not be together. So I think it's funny that I just brought up my marriage and I didn't even realize that it was a perfect segue into this point. So I discovered that I had an almost parallel marriage experience in a past life, and I was essentially reliving the pattern in this life. And guys, the details, the freaking similarities between these two lives and the marriage experience just like blew my mind. And the way I said that was weird. The similarities between that past life marriage experience and this experience I had being married a few years ago. It's wild, man. It's wild. So in my past life, I absconded in the night. And in this life, I actually just fantasized about absconding in the night. But instead, I went to therapy for a few years. I learned about what a healthy relationship was supposed to look like. And then I essentially self-sabotaged myself into divorce. Whatever works for you. So did I really break the pattern? I mean, I learned a ton from my marriage, and I wouldn't change anything about it. And I do think that I changed the way that I dealt with the situation. I was joking about self-sabotaging myself into divorce. That was a joke. But instead, in this life, instead of resigning myself to my misery, I actually chose to seek help. And I went to some intensive therapy for a few years. I read books about how to love myself and how to cultivate a healthy relationship and how to communicate. I didn't just run away. I stayed and I fought for myself. And it ultimately did empower me. I found myself in the process. And I went through some really, really deep transformation. Painful, albeit, but deep. And I found confidence that I didn't even know that I had. I started focusing on myself and my health rather than consistently self-sacrificing. Ah, man, talking about this now and like what I gained from that opportunity actually feels really good. I don't think I've ever said some of that stuff about it. I've been able to recognize that I've healed a lot and it taught me a lot, but it's cool to be able to be more specific about what I got out of that and the difference between how I handled it in a past life where it stuck with me and how I'm handling it in this life and breaking the cycle of being abused and then running away. So that's really cool. Okay, so back to what I was saying though. So on the other hand, on the other hand of the coin, on the other side of the coin, I just talked about past life experiences that keep showing up as patterns, as negative patterns in our current lives that can create victimhood mindsets. But on the flip side, people who have empowering experiences in past lives where they overcome significant challenges and like win at life, who make choices that are coming from empowered places, those things can also carry into your current life. You're able to carry that strength into your current life rather than carrying negative patterns. So this kind of past life experience can actually give you a natural sense of confidence and resilience when you make those empowered choices and those carry over with you. And then that can make it easier for you to adopt an empowered mindset in this life. And you may actually notice that it's easier for you to step into a leadership role or face adversity with a calm and collected demeanor. And I'm sure that we've all had both types of these experiences, the powerless ones and the empowering ones, because that's just part of our soul growth. So it can be so liberating to understand the influences of past lives on our current mindset. And it helps us to see our limitations and to see beyond our immediate circumstances and to recognize patterns that may have significantly deep and historical roots. And most importantly, it gives us the tools to consciously choose empowerment over victimhood and to break free from past life limitations so we can step into our full potential. All right, so next up, I want to get into some practical strategies for shifting from a victim mindset to an empowered one. And you already know I cannot do an episode without giving you some practical steps for reclaiming your power and transforming your life, because here for it. That's what I'm here for. Love that. Love it. All right. So these techniques that we're going to talk about actually fall under the umbrella of self-reflection, because being able to reflect on your life and behaviors is a really powerful tool that can help you to uncover some of these patterns and get more insight about where they're coming from and how to turn them into more positive patterns and behavioral wins, beneficial behaviors. So I actually found some really helpful questions and prompts because I do research for these episodes so that I can give you tons of value and practical steps and stuff, because I don't want to just talk it. You want to give you stuff you can take away and use, because that's what I like. So treating you guys like I like to be treated. So I found some really helpful questions and prompts that can help you to get started with this self-reflection process. So whether you want to journal about them or just take some time for yourself and mentally reflect, or maybe even meditate, these questions and prompts can help you to dig deeper. So to help you to be able to understand recurring issues, you can ask yourself, what are some recurring problems or challenges that I'm facing in my life? Do I notice any patterns in these issues that seem to repeat, regardless of my effort to resolve them? And for insight into your emotional triggers, you could ask yourself, are there specific situations or people that consistently trigger strong emotional reactions in me? What feelings are coming up? And can I identify any common themes or underlying fears related to this? For relationships, you can ask yourself, do I tend to attract the same type of person, or do I tend to encounter similar conflicts with different people? Because that can be very telling. What do these patterns tell me about my own behaviors and beliefs? So good. And then for unexplained fears or phobias, you can ask, do I have any fears or phobias that seem irrational or that don't have a clear cause from my current life? What might these fears be trying to tell me about unresolved issues from my past? And then lastly, to get more insight into any deja vu experiences, you can ask yourself, have I ever felt a strong sense of familiarity with a place, a person, or a situation without any logical explanation? And how do these experiences make me feel? What memories or emotions do they bring up? And then as you're reflecting, try to be as honest and open with yourself as possible, and then look for patterns or themes that emerge. This exercise can reveal a lot of valuable insights. All right. I also want to encourage you to remember, please don't judge yourself or dwell on anything from the past. These past life stories, these past life patterns are not, they don't define who you are. You are a wonderful person in this life. So try not to get stuck in the past. They're not telling you who you are. They're just telling you about experiences that you've had that shape the way you think about things, shape the way that you make choices, and contribute to these unconscious programs that are running in the background, contributing to the way that you are making choices and choosing to live your life. So the goal is to gain a deeper understanding of the influences that are shaping your current experiences. Because by bringing these patterns to the forefront, you can start to address them with intention and compassion, and then create more avenues for positive change, which is the goal. We want positive changes. Change is inevitable. Let's make it positive. Let's not get stuck in a cycle of negativity. Am I right? Are you with me on this? Okay, so if you are someone who is not particularly analytical, that's just not your jam. Maybe you don't find it easy or comfortable to do self-reflection techniques, but you're interested in this process, you can book an Akashic Records reading with me and bring these questions for us to ask the Akashic Records. And this is different from an Akashic Soul Blueprint reading, in that an Akashic Records reading is where we hop on a Zoom and you bring a list of questions with you that you've created beforehand. And then we go one by one down the list while I'm in your Akashic Records on the Zoom call. And then I channel the answers right then and there for you. So if you want help, then that's an option, and I'm happy to do it. I love those sessions. So any of those questions I just brought up about your triggers, your relationships, your fears, deja vu, if you don't want to reflect on your own, you can book a session with me. You can also take them to a therapy session if that's your jam. Like, however it feels, however you feel called to reflect is probably the right way for you. There's so many ways you can do it. I'm just mentioning a few examples. Okay, so now I want to talk about how to actually recognize these triggers that bring up feelings of victimhood, and then how to use that awareness as a first step toward empowerment. So triggers are specific events, situations, or interactions that provoke a really strong emotional response from you. And these, excuse me, man, my lunch, let me just tell you, I'm probably not going to eat that again before I do a podcast episode, because geez Louise. So anyway, these emotional reactions or triggers or responses, either one, a trigger can create an emotional response or it can create emotional reaction. I think a trigger can tend to create more of an emotional response when you have more self-awareness, because you feel the emotions, but you're able to respond while you're feeling the emotion. But I think when you lack self-awareness, then you have a tendency to emotionally react without any kind of conscious intention behind it. You're just like, blah, this is how I feel, so this is what I'm going to do. That's an emotional reaction. And so these emotional reactions or responses can be from past life experiences or current life experiences that have impacted us. So how do you recognize a trigger? First, it's important that you pay attention to your emotional reactions throughout the day. So when you feel a sudden rush of anger or sadness or fear or helplessness, take a minute and reflect on what just happened. What was the situation? What interaction was happening or just happened? Try to identify any patterns or things that these triggers have in common. And then, for example, I'm going to give you a few scenarios that are pretty commonly triggering and can lead you to feeling like a victim. Okay, so arguments or confrontations with certain types of people can be triggering. And you can ask yourself, like, does this type of interaction make you feel powerless or overwhelmed when you have an argument or confrontation with someone? Because this could point to a trigger that initiates a victim mindset. And I honestly have a bit of a fear of confrontation. I think it depends on the context, though, but that's definitely triggering for me, arguments and confrontations with specific people. So I should probably, I'm going to look into that. Glad we're talking about this. Or how about criticism and rejection? This is another common one. How do you react when you receive criticism, whether it's constructive or not? Does it make you feel unworthy or incapable? Because if it does, it may be pointing to something under the surface that you need to look at. Failure and setbacks can also be triggering and lead you to having victimhood feelings. So when you encounter a setback or you fail at something, do you immediately feel defeated and blame yourself or blame external factors for it? And then lastly, how do you feel when you compare yourself to others? Does this trigger a sense of inadequacy or resentment? Because that could also be a trigger for you. What's that trigger trying to tell you? I have definitely noticed reactions to all of these. And as I've been working on my self-awareness, I've noticed that it's actually getting easier to notice these triggers in myself and in my partner or other people I'm close to. And it was really hard at first, and I would get swept up in my emotional reaction. And at first, it would take a while for me to be able to like reflect and investigate what was happening. But now I'm getting so used to doing it that I can pretty quickly pause and be like, uh-oh, okay, I'm feeling triggered. What is this? Is it my abandonment wound? Is it my inadequacy wound? Is it my self-worth wound? Like, what is it? I don't feel like there's something wrong with me anymore. By the way, that's a huge part of this, the healing process and the self-awareness. Like when the trigger happens and I'm like, oh no, is it pointing to my inadequacy? It doesn't make me feel worse about it. I'm like, oh, yay, that's a green light. That's something I can unpack because I know it'll make me feel better and I'll be a better person for it. So instead I feel really interested because I'm learning something new about myself. So I don't get down on myself about it like I used to initially. And then as I explore it deeper, I come to conclusions about my needs and my wants and places for me to give myself more healing attention. It's been so empowering and just so helpful. I highly encourage you, if you're interested at all, to start doing this process. It's so good. And if you have been doing the process, I'm clapping because it can be challenging. So I'm so proud of you. Okay. And I'm proud of anyone who even wants to undertake this challenge because I think sometimes it can be hard to even want to approach a greater sense of self-awareness and then really like commit to that path. It can be very tough and triggering and uncomfortable. So all in your own time. Man, okay. So being able to recognize triggers is really impactful because it allows you to understand what specific circumstances evoke a victim mindset. And by being able to acknowledge your triggers, you can take the first step toward empowerment as you increase your awareness of unconscious patterns. And it can also help you to see where you might be giving your power away. Okay, so understanding your triggers can also help to prepare you for managing them more effectively. For example, let's say that you know you get triggered by criticism. You can come up with strategies in advance so that you can respond in a calm and constructive manner instead of reacting defensively or shutting down. And man, love my mom so much. She used to be so sensitive to any perceived criticism. And it honestly felt like if I wasn't praising her, she was getting defensive or sometimes even lashing out. And I remember this being such a repetitive pattern that it got to a point where I was like, I didn't know all the things that I know now, but I was just like trying to buffer anything that I said to her that wasn't praise. It actually led me to feeling like I needed to filter myself, because I was just like, this confrontation is very uncomfortable. I didn't even mean anything by what I said. I was just trying to be helpful. And like, I don't even think I said anything to criticize you. But because she tended to take whatever I said that wasn't praise as me attacking her or being mean, and mind you, I'm sure that I did criticize her sometimes. I'm not perfect, and I am very critical of myself. I know I can be very critical of other people too, even if it's unintentional, even if it's coming from a place of love. Criticism is criticism. But sometimes there are also times where I was definitely not criticizing her and her reaction would be huge. And I just remember trying to get her to pay attention, but she was just not having it. And she would just feel even more attacked. I can hear her voice in my head, the way she'd be like, Ashley. Anyway, so maybe just focusing on recognizing and managing your own triggers is the best course of action. I know sometimes we want to help those close to us and they're not always super receptive to it. I'm currently trying to navigate this as gently and compassionately as possible with my boyfriend slash partner, because I'm learning so much and I'm noticing him get triggered by things, and I just want to help. I want to be like, hey, why is this triggering you? What are you feeling? And I turn into psychologist Ashley, and he's so patient because a lot of the time he'll actually sit there and we'll have a conversation about it, which is wonderful. But it is a very sensitive process and people do not always want your help. So let's all focus on ourselves. How about that? Unless you're a professional. Then, even if you were a professional, I doubt you'd be psychoanalyzing your partner during like an actual life thing. I don't know. Because I'm not a professional psychologist. Okay. Anyway, when you become more aware of your triggers, you can shift your perspective from one of helplessness to one of empowerment. And instead of seeing triggers as insurmountable obstacles, you can see them as opportunities for growth and self-awareness. And I say that so much. I say it so much. And each trigger you recognize and address is actually a step forward toward reclaiming your power and creating a new mindset that actually serves you rather than hinders you. All right, so now that we know how to start recognizing negative patterns and triggers, I want to talk about some more practical strategies for shifting from a victim mindset to an empowered one, which can help you to free yourself from the chains of past life patterns and start releasing these blocks. And the very first and most important part of this is to recognize that you have the ability to choose your thoughts, you have the ability to choose your reactions, and you have the ability to choose your actions in any given situation. Don't give your power away by blaming anyone or anything outside of yourself. And I mean, I understand that you may not have control over external circumstances, but you do have control over how you respond to them. So here are a few practical strategies to help you shift into a more empowered mindset. First, start by increasing your self-awareness. And that looks like paying attention to your thoughts and your feelings and noticing moments where you're feeling powerless, and then consciously choosing not to judge yourself and instead adopt a different perspective. Hopefully one that's more empowering. You can also reframe negative thoughts by focusing on lessons you've learned and personal growth instead of victimhood. I love reframing. I learned that from my therapist this year. I didn't know that I do it sometimes, but I didn't know what it was called. And now I try to do it all the time. So instead of like being down about a situation, I'm like, ooh, this is an opportunity for growth. That's a reframe. So you can also set clear boundaries. That's another way to stop giving your power away and to feel more empowered. Clear boundaries actually protect your well-being. So say no to draining demands and toxic relationships, because when you do that, you actually affirm your self-respect, because it's an act of self-love. And not having boundaries does not make you a better, nicer, sweeter, kinder person. Loving yourself does. Another way to shift into an empowered mindset is to practice having gratitude. And if you can do it daily, even better. And this can also help you to shift from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. So I just looked at the clock and it's 3:33. I love that. I haven't looked at the clock this whole time. Angel numbers, guys. I usually record this the day before I put it out. And so today is August 11th. I just so happened to send a message. I was looking for a babysitter for rocket today, and I sent the message on August 11th at 11:11. Get out of here right now. Love seeing stuff like that. Anyway, okay. So embracing a more empowered mindset happens with consistency. So when you're making consistent choices from a place of feeling empowered instead of feeling powerless, and when you're consistently choosing to take responsibility, you're better able to shape your path with resilience and positivity. So notice the pattern there was consistency. You got to try to do it more often than not. And for anyone who's already choosing to be empowered more often than allowing yourself to fall into victimhood, I just want to share some advanced empowerment techniques to help you to maintain and grow your empowered mindset. So some more advanced empowerment techniques involve deepening your self-awareness and your commitment to personal growth. So practices like shadow work to confront unconscious aspects of yourself and energy healing techniques to clear blockages are some things that you can do. In addition to that, you can do inner child work, which can also help you to heal past wounds. And another advanced empowerment technique is visualization, which can help you to align with your goals and desires. And then, of course, meditation, which can help you to connect with your divinity, clear your mind, tap into your inner wisdom, and deepen your spiritual alignment, which generally leads to more fulfillment in your life and more empowerment. I feel like the deeper you are into your spiritual journey, the more empowered you become, because that was a weird repetitive phrase I just said. The more empowered you become because you begin to realize and fully embody your power as a spiritual being having a human existence, human experience, human existence, same. And you're able to realize that you shape your life with your choices. And these practices require a bit more dedication and openness with exploring the deeper layers of yourself, but they can really help in fostering transformation and empowerment and just deepening your mindset of empowerment, like cultivating more of a mindset of empowerment. And as we wrap up, man, I cannot believe it's already been like 47 minutes. Jesus, I feel like I've been talking for 10 minutes. That is how you know that I can talk. I don't know, my throat can feel it though. I feel it. So as we wrap up, I want you to remember that choosing empowerment is a critical part of breaking free from negative past life patterns that might be keeping you feeling stuck, that might be keeping you feeling unworthy or powerless. And these patterns create self-imposed limitations, and they affect how you view yourself and the world around you. They affect your ability to embrace your potential. So by embracing a mindset of empowerment, you can connect with your inner strength and recognize that you have the power to change your narrative. And it's all about consciously deciding to let go of old beliefs and behaviors that are no longer serving you. And instead, choose actions and choose thoughts that actually align with your highest potential. Empowerment is not just a choice, it's a commitment to your personal growth, to your healing, and to the creation of a life that reflects your true worth, a life that is actually fulfilling, a life that's satisfying, a life that brings you joy and experiences and adventure and whatever it is that you want out of life. So, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. This is a really fun conversation for me to talk about because I feel like I kind of talk about these things often, but it was cool to pull it together with all of the past lives and techniques for like healing and the differences between empowerment and victimhood. So just thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. Your support really means a lot to me. If you enjoyed the episode, please don't forget to rate the podcast and give it a follow and share the episode with friends and family. Connect with me on social media for more updates and insights. You can find me on all the platforms, well, on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Spirituality with Ashley. Stay mindful, stay focused, and keep believing in yourself. Until next time, keep dreaming big and living your best life. I'll see you in the next episode.